It's backstabbing from Christian Horner. Red Bull's having a hard time with Christian Horner, who used to be Dietrich Mateschitz' right hand. While the power battle's still on in the Red Bull management, and Verstappen's departures killing the confidence of the team, Christian Horner's playing his cards odd. Christian Horner's move will throw Red Bull into turmoil. Intriguing, right? Well, let's see the details. Christian Horner's been putting a lot of pressure on Red Bull lately, even when allegations have always kept an eye on him. He never fails to utilise every opportunity to snatch the top positions in Red Bull GmbH. There were reports that Christian Horner's eyeing the top spot as CEO of Red Bull GmbH, even in the limelight of an allegation brought about by a female employee, who accused him of inappropriate behaviour. The uncertainty in the team started with the death of its captain, Dietrich Mateschitz. Dietrich Mateschitz put his flesh and blood to regain the legacy of Red Bull when it was a wrecking ship left by Ford. This billionaire was helped by Christian Horner, who was one of the best combos in the history of Red Bull and Formula 1. They grabbed fourth on the all-time list of Grand Prix winners, trailing only Mercedes by 12 victories for third place on the Formula 1 honours list. But Horner was never appreciated enough for his contributions to Red Bull. Unlike many other team principals, he was never offered a share in Red Bull. He was sidelined by giving a substantial £8 million mini package. But does Dietrich Mateschitz's death have something else in hand? After the death of Dietrich Mateschitz, a power battle was started in Red Bull management, a war between the Austrian faction and the Thai faction. Mateschitz's son, Mark Mateschitz, inherited a 49% stake in Red Bull. He received a $615 million shareholder payout from the company, making him one of the world's youngest billionaires and Red Bull heir. Being the heir to Red Bull, he got the authority to appoint a certain number of board members for the parent company Red Bull GmbH, which is registered in Austria. At the same time, the Thai faction, headed by Chalom Vudia, son of Chalio Vudia, who restricted himself from popularity, started appearing in the limelight. Horner aligned himself with Chalom Vudia, who holds a 51% stake in Red Bull. This resulted in him constantly criticising Mark Mateschitz's position on the board. But what was the agenda behind this Horner-Thai relationship? When Mark Mateschitz started taking his real power out, Horner realised the change in his hold. Mark Mateschitz assumed his position on the board and appointed his associate Oliver Mintzlaff as the CEO of the group's sporting activities. He started realising that Red Bull's dynamics had started changing. The only way left for him was to align his actions towards Chalom Vudia and the Thai factor. Even though the allegation against Horner was cutting him to pieces, the Thai side supported him. The allegation raised by the now suspended female employee had much media attention, but Horner's relationship with the majority shareholder sidelined that issue, just like plucking a flower. But we can't ignore the fact that the Thai faction has something else in return. If Horner succeeds in grabbing the top position in Red Bull, it's speculated that Alex Albon, a Thai driver, would be brought into the team. Alex Albon, a sprouting talent, is expected to be an asset for the Red Bull family and a matter of pride for the Thai factor. Alex Albon has a strong chance of competing for the world title in 2025 with Red Bull. Guess what it's costing Horner? Yep, it's Max Verstappen, the three-time champion. When Alex Albon comes into the picture, it might result in Verstappen losing his 2025 World Championship title. When trusting Horner and moving ahead in Red Bull seems like a failing match, Verstappen's ready to leave Red Bull and aim for some other big fish. During the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Verstappen himself hinted that he might leave if Helmut Marko, Red Bull's motorsport advisor, was removed from his position due to an investigation into media leaks. Verstappen knows Marko's influence in his game and management very well. Once Marko's out, Max Verstappen will have a hard time at Red Bull. Marko himself stated that his position was at stake in response to the anonymous email sent to 149 senior F1 paddock figures, claiming to contain documents from the investigation instigated after a female employee accused team boss Christian Horner of inappropriate behaviour. This situation has already made it obvious that Max Verstappen will be leaving soon his second home, Red Bull. Does it seem like a big deal for Horner right now? Surely not. Horner's already in search of someone who could fill Verstappen's void. Verstappen might be no big deal for Christian Horner when it comes to an attractive chair at the top of Red Bull GmbH. It would be a great story for me to see it out till the end because it would mean I've been part of one family and one team. I always felt comfortable in Red Bull because it's like a second family, it's good. Verstappen's words suggest that he'd like to continue at Red Bull, but with some conditions. Surely those conditions would include taking away Horner's hold from the F1 team. Now, the only way for Horner is to find someone who can replace Verstappen. Now the question comes, who can fill that void? Fernando Alonso's management has responded promptly to the changing conditions at Red Bull. Fernando Alonso, the Aston Martin charm, always had an eye on this Red Bull cockpit. Seems like the right time to hit the spot. Public appearances of Christian Horner and Flavio Briatore had already ignited speculations about such a shift from Aston Martin to Red Bull. Horner can make an offer to Fernando Alonso and his management without any issues because Red Bull lead Sergio Perez's contract expires at the end of the year. Horner has two options in front of him: give a luxurious welcome to Fernando Alonso in the presence of Verstappen or without it. If Verstappen remains, he'll join the super team, which is less probable. If Verstappen decides to leave, Sergio Perez can stay in the team, giving rise to an Alonso-Perez combo. But Alonso's entry will not only depend on Horner's liking. An Austrian faction led by Mark Mateschitz is waiting at the end of the line, but the Thai stakeholders will definitely pull the strings for Horner to make self-determination for Fernando Alonso. The only rival for Alonso in such a deal is Carlos Sainz from Scuderia Ferrari. Sainz is looking for a better place than Ferrari as Lewis Hamilton's making his way inside by 2025. He's been trying to impress the Bermuda Triangle, which includes Red Bull, Mercedes and Aston Martin, with his recent performance at the Australian Grand Prix. Now it's a competition between the former world champion with Carlos Sainz to get more in line with Red Bull. They wish nothing less than to win a 2025 championship in Red Bull's machine. They're pushing as much as they can as Verstappen's deal with Mercedes is finding its pace. Toto Wolff needs Verstappen to save his face from the recent poor performance in the Australian Grand Prix. Now talking about the chances of Carlos Sainz. Christian Horner had taken a moment to praise Carlos Sainz's performance at the Australian Grand Prix. Horner was trying to make his Carlos Sainz deal evident to the paddock. I think you should also see this a bit in relation to the power struggle of Christian Horner with Helmut Marko and Red Bull Thailand with Red Bull Austria. If Christian feels that Max Verstappen and Helmut Marko are putting a little pressure on him, he can think, well, someone like Carlos Sainz, if I bring him in, then I have someone with whom I can potentially become a champion. That would increase the pressure on Max, because I don't really think Max is eager to have Carlos Sainz as a teammate. I think there's a large part of politics involved, and Christian is of course politically very smart. These are the words of Ernest Noor, a former Ferrari engineer. Horner's aiming for nothing less than the highest position in Red Bull despite the pressure from Helmut Marko and Mark Mateschitz. If Max Verstappen had to be sacrificed, he wouldn't have thought a minute to do it. From the words of Sebastian Vettel, it seems that Red Bull still thinks they can manage the hustle. There is of course a lot of unrest at the moment, but I think from a sporting perspective there's currently no reason for him to think about anything else. However, the recent drama that emerged from the Red Bull grid suggests the opposite. Leaving behind Max Verstappen, three-time world champion, seems a blunder for Red Bull. But when it comes to Christian Horner's personal needs and top positions, does Max Verstappen even matter? Comment down your opinions below and don't forget to like the video and share it with your fellow Formula 1 fans. Let's wait for the existing roller coaster and be sure to check in by pressing the bell icon and subscribing for more content. Bye for now.